Hi everyone, welcome to OET 369. I'm really glad to see you all, and today I'm doing this video with great gratitude and pleasure. At least some of you may be aware that we have actually posted a writing challenge on the occasion of Nurses Day or Nurses Week, and we have actually posted a case note and a writing task for the students to attempt and send it to us. So I have got around, I think 450, 400 letters to be corrected. I was able to look through every letter and I have given a detailed feedback for the first 25 letters, first 25 submitted letters. But for those who have attempted this letter and for those who have actually seen this letter, I thought it's not fair for us to just give a winner. So I thought I will discuss that letter to you all, help you to find out the relevant content from that particular case note. And I will also post a sample letter at the end of this video. I hope this will be a great help for all of my students and all of my channel viewers and all of my FB followers. I'll also post this video link in my FB page so you can have a look through that too. Okay, so let us start with the given task. Okay, so I will just put the letter here for those who haven't actually seen the writing task and the case note. You can have a look through we can go from there. So let's go to the writing task first. So our patient is Mr. Mason Richfield. And the writing task here says, using the information given in the case notes, write a discharge letter to Mr. Mason Richfield's GP, which means we are writing to his own GP, Dr. Julian Roland, requesting review and ongoing management. Okay, so every time we read the writing task, we understood that we are writing to Mr. Mason's Richfield GP. So GP knows this patient before and we are requesting ongoing care for Mr. Mason Richfield. Now, let's go to the top part of the case note. So that says, you are a charge nurse working in the burns unit of St. Patrick's Hospital. Your patient, Mr. Mason Richfield, is now ready for discharge. He has been admitted to your unit following a fire at his residence. So we understood that Mr. Mason Richfield is in burns unit and you are a nurse there. He was admitted following a fire at his residence. So obviously, when you scan this case notes, let's do the scanning first. So I would advise all of us to do the scanning first. We need to do the content selection. We have almost identified the purpose of writing this letter. Now we need to do the content selection and see which is relevant and which is not relevant. Then we need to consider the relevant information and organize accordingly. So let's do that selection. So patient's name, age, admission date and discharge date are mandatory. Medical history, I don't think that is mandatory because this is Mason's GP. GP will know everything happened in 2009, 2007, Crohn's disease. So you can avoid all that. Social history, so again, that is the GP who is known to Mason. So you can avoid any social history like bank officer. So we have avoided that bit too. Now, admission details. So there are certain students who submitted this letter said, as GP is aware. I don't think GP is aware about this particular condition. Okay, so GP may know this patient and may know the patient's details, but the GP may not be aware about this particular admission. So don't think it's a known case and the GP will automatically know about that admission. It's not like that. Once the patient is getting discharged, you will update the GP. So you have to write the admission details here. So you have to say that he was unconscious because it is an important thing. And you have to say about the partial thickness burn and burns in 25% because GP is going to continue that portion. You also have to mention about hypovolemia and respiratory distress because if you see the discharge plan, you can see that you have advised about deep breathing exercises and fluid intake. So every time when you write a discharge letter, it's better to see the discharge plan, okay? Suspected knee sprain. I think almost all the students have included this content. I don't think it is relevant because it was there in the admission. The suspected knee sprain was a suspected or was a doubt once that patient got admitted. But as the case note progresses, There is nothing they mention about the knee sprain, and there is nothing that actually says about the knee sprain. So we should imagine that is gone. That was only a suspicious, and as long as they're not saying anything further about it, you don't have to worry about it. See, most of the students then told me like, oh, my trainer didn't. So when you write a letter and submit to somebody, it is very easy to look and tell you the mistakes. But the problem is that these bits may not be identified. So it's your responsibility to identify the content very clearly and appropriately. Okay, now let's go to the nursing management. So airway maintenance, sterile irrigation under cold water, IV rehydration therapy. So in here, what you need to, so I think almost all students have mentioned about this airway maintenance, sterile irrigation, blood test in detail, strict intake output chart. So this intake output chart, short-term catheter, sterile irrigation under cold running water, these things have finished. That is done in the hospital. You are not following anything about catheter or anything about sterile irrigation in the discharge plan. So I don't think you have to mention that to the GP. You can actually mention about the high flow oxygen, because obviously breathing and respiratory distress is an important factor and you are advising breathing exercise. You can probably say that. You can say the blood test and the current condition of that blood test. You don't have to explain each relevant test that was done in the hospital. GP will have a system to see that anyway. So you can avoid that. You can just say what is the current status of the blood test. Okay. So maybe you can put it that in the progress that, later, but not now. You don't have to say about the medications in very detail. We may give many medications, so you can just concise that part. Okay. So the nursing management, you need to consider only the things that needs to be carried forward. Okay. Anything that is finished in the hospital, you don't have to worry about it. Okay. So this was the main point or main error I have seen in almost all the letters. Okay. So kindly note that point. Now, assessment today says the patient is stable, blood's normal, can maintain airway and oxygen levels on air, febrile, ready for discharge. So some students have forgot to explain this part. I think most of them did. You have actually said the management that is done and straight away went to the discharge plan. But as a GP, the GP should know the level of the progress that patient has made in the hospital. And the GP should also know what is the current status of the patient's health. Okay, so that part where you say that, on subsequent days or on today's assessment, the patient was stable, blood's returned as normal, he can maintain this, everything in air, he's currently ready for discharge, or he's currently stable, which means he's ready anyway. So you may have to give a little bit idea about that too. Okay, then go to the discharge plan. This was another important error that I have seen in most of the students. So most of them have said GP to do all this, but monitor any signs of infection, something the GP can do. Patient given education about. Patient was already provided with these things. Okay. So given education means it's already given. Most of the candidates wrote, kindly advise patients about application of sunscreen. They have asked GP to do that, which is wrong. Okay. So when you examine the discharge plan, see whether this is done in the hospital or actually, are you asking the GP to do it in future? You have to clearly identify this part when you formulate your discharge plan. Okay, so you have to say about his wound cleansing and topical dressings, and then you have to say that he has been educated or instructed or advised about all this and to avoid vigorous exercise. And then finally, you can mention about the follow-up appointment which is scheduled for him. Okay, so now we have successfully selected the content. Okay, now organization of this content is an important factor which you may all need to be aware about. So you can put a very simple introduction saying that Mr. Mason Richfield was admitted to care following a fire at his residence, and he requires ongoing care for his injuries related to burns. Okay, so or for his injuries at least. Most of them have said he requests further assessment, which means it is not linked to his problem. So when you try and write a purpose, it is a good idea to link to his current problem. So the reader gets an idea about the purpose very clearly. I will post the sample letter at the end so you can have a look at that. Then you may have to say about the patient's presenting compliance, and he was unconscious on admission. Then you can say about respiratory distress and hypovolemia and how was he managed. So very concise. It should be concise. You don't have to write everything in detail. So you can just say about high flow oxygen and intravenous therapy, the acute management that you have done. Okay. And then you can say about his progress. So in today's assessment, he has progressed well. His blood test returned is normal and he's able to maintain oxygen levels in air. You can also say that his burns are healing well, no signs of any infection, and he's been prescribed with oral analgesics. You don't have to expand that part. Then obviously you come to the discharge plan and then you conclude your letter. It is a very easy letter if you think and write. So guys, the first and foremost advice I need to give you to you all, and I think I always tell this to my students when I correct their letters, and is to concise. You don't have to elaborate unnecessarily. And when you organize your letter, it is very important to organize in a way that the reader can understand it quickly. It is not the way that you follow the case notes and you organize it in your own way. No, you need to identify the related content and organize in such a way that the reader can identify it clearly. Okay, that carries and that improves your score for your organization and layout. And your content selection, your genre and style. And another important problem I found in most of the letters was the tone of the letter. Most of them didn't carry a formal tone. Okay, so that is another important thing you may have to make sure. The language aspects also, like punctuation, spelling, grammatical errors, tense errors, these all needs to be looked at into your letter too. Okay, and once that's all done, you should attain a very good score for your letter. I'm really glad to say those who have submitted your letters, it's a really good attempt, and I couldn't find anybody who was below the base level. So you're all capable to do it. I think the people who submitted to me, I really congratulate for your effort you've taken. But unfortunately, we can only give prize to 2 people, which we have declared. So thank you so much for this participation. And it really gives me an encouragement to do more things. So we'll be discussing case notes in detail in the future episodes of our YouTube channel. So kindly wait for that. And if you have any suggestions, please do let me know to my number. Okay, we do have online course details. We do have online course. So for details, you can log on to our website, english369.uk. You can also WhatsApp me. I have included my WhatsApp number with the description, or you can email me at oet369@gmail.com. Thank you so much for all of your support. It was really nice to hear the encouraging words back when I gave the feedback. That is a real positive energy. So keep doing that. Continue your practice. I'm sure you will all succeed in your OET exams. Thank you. Bye-bye.